Hello. So today we're going to talk about the transition phase, its importance, why sometimes it can be neglected or forgotten about, and what exactly the transition phase does and how you can train it. So for those of you who don't really know what a transition phase is, it's the middle ground between your acceleration and your max V. It's what happens in the middle from when you accelerate to when you get to max velocity. So for me, the transition phase is one of the most neglected and probably vital phases if you want to really optimize sprint performance, any type of running performance down the track or down the runway that requires you to get from A to B as quickly or as efficiently as possible. Now, why do I say that transition phase can be neglected sometimes? Basically, because people like to either accelerate or they like to run up tall. They like to do drills to accelerate, or do block starts, do lots of pogos, plyometric, big push stuff, or like to do lots of nice fancy sprint drills to get up tall and get nice max speed positions. But they kind of forget that there's a transition period between your acceleration and your max V. And if you mess that transition period up, you can lose a lot of time in a race. So I like to look at your acceleration and your transition and your max V like gears on a manual car. So first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. So as you run, you go through the gears and eventually you want to get to a nice top gear and you want to hold that or sustain that speed for as long as possible. Now, the thing that people forget is the transition is actually a gear. So when I say people don't have a transition phase or neglect the transition phase, it basically means they go from low acceleration and pushy straight up to the max speed positions and try and maintain their max speed positions. If I was to do that in a car and I was driving my car and I had first gear, second gear, fifth gear, most of you guys know what happens. There's usually a stall or a lag period where there's just not really a lot of speed. No matter how hard I put my foot on the accelerator, going from second gear to fourth gear, fifth gear is always going to cause a little bit of lag time before before the gears can work before the speed can work to what the gears are designed to do. And if I translate that back to athletics, if you just pop straight up and you're in nice fancy max V positions, but you're not at the right speed to run at max V, you have to wait a little while for your body to find the right speed to match the positions you're trying to run at. So what the transition phase does is it hits the right positions at the right speed and slowly changes the positions as the speed develops. I know that might sound slightly complicated, but for Connor here, I do it quite a simple way. This yellow cone here is he just has to stay low. This is his acceleration phase. And then I think we should ignore this blue cone. That's for some of the other athletes. But we say this white line or around this steeplechase barrier is when he should be upright and tall. That's about 40 meters. So we're given about 40 meters of a very smooth acceleration transition to max V. Connor loves visual cues, so this just works very well. If I didn't have these cones and cues out for him, he'd probably be completely upright by the yellow cone, just trying to, because he's very comfortable at max V. So his race plan used to be get out low, get to your tall position, and just run down the track. And it works to a point. But if you want to go from 11.2 to 10.8, or you want to go from 10.8 to 10.5, usually if you just fix this middle transition part, it just pits things together nicely. And in previous races, when Connor would pop up tall and guys would stay low and take an extra 2 or 3 steps, and now Connor's with them, and those 2 or 3 steps can really, they can make 2 tenths, 3 tenths of a difference in a race, if not more, if you do it really wrong. So we have as low as you can to the yellow, and then by the time it gets to the steeplechase barrier, you want to be fully upright. This run for Connor is more of a tempo run, so it's about 85-90%. I think the session was 2 sets of 460s with about 3 to 5 minutes in between and about 5 or 10 minutes. I think roughly this is about a month ago, so I can't remember the exact without looking at the training notes. So it's nice because Connor's not super rushed. He's still running fast enough to get the training effects, but he's not running so fast and that he's just a bit messy or he doesn't have the right positions. Now, the last thing I'll talk about super quickly of why the transition is important is just because what you do in your acceleration, every step in a race changes compared to the last step. So the frequency gets slightly quicker, the length gets slightly longer, the contacts decrease, the hip height rises, the foot attack height rises, the shin attack angles differ every step. How you set up your acceleration usually determines how you finish your max V position. And again, your transition is that middle ground where things just start to really develop. So if you have bad acceleration positions, your transition usually exaggerates them. If you're a very talented, smart athlete, you can use your transition to sort of get out of some of those bad positions you set yourself into, so you can still salvage a max V position. But most of the time, what you do in your acceleration gets exaggerated through the transition and exaggerated through the max V positions. As an example, if I show you Donal, one thing Donal does very well here is he's very good at running with nice frontside mechanics and switching out the front side of his body. Unfortunately, in this run, he compensates the push and the drive needed to gain momentum to break inertia at the start. So he ends up with not a high max V speed, not a lot of momentum, but nice max V positions. And this is what this looks like. With not a lot of speed, but nice positions. Now, some of you might see that this looks slightly off. You might not know why it looks slightly off. Because if you're someone who videos a lot of stuff, I video maybe every 1 out of 10 runs, and you break stuff down like I like to do. When you break this down, it doesn't look super bad because he's getting a nice figure 4 position. He's switching out the front, but there's just a lack of momentum. There's a lack of speed coming through the acceleration and transition. So it's hard to find an upright speed if you haven't developed the momentum at the start to carry the body through the rest of the race. So you can break this down and think, hey, this looks pretty good. But unless you see it in real time or see it, in actual time, real time, actual time, you won't see what I mean. So you can just see there's a lack of momentum from this to the yellow cone. And it's just all completely focused on front side. Now that could be a fault of me of over prioritizing front side mechanics and not overemphasizing the importance of a drive or a push back or momentum. But hopefully this is what you guys can see. So hopefully this video helped. Again, transition is very important. If you know what manual gears are, transition phase is an actual gear that you need to go through. If you skip the transition, you lose a gear and you lose precious time it takes to get to a high speed. Hope that makes sense. Goodbye.